Hi everyone, this is Will from Basketball Network, and today we have a special guest on our podcast. From lighting up the NBA courts with his smooth lefty jumper to becoming a leader both on and off the hardwood, Cuttino Mobley is no stranger to greatness. He made his mark in the NBA with skill, heart, and determination. Drafted in the second round of the '98 NBA draft, Mobley quickly defied expectations. He became a key player for the Houston Rockets, earning NBA All-Rookie second team honors. A nearly 10-year NBA career, over 11,000 points scored, and a reputation as one of the league's most reliable scorers and defenders. He played alongside NBA legends such as Hakeem Olajuwon, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, Dwight Howard, Yao Ming, and many others. But his journey didn't stop at basketball. Now Coutinho is taking on a new role, one that's all about inspiring and guiding others.
Being a mentor to people. You said you're a motivational speaker and consultant. Was there a particular moment, perhaps during your career or right after retirement, that sparked your passion for this new journey?
I don't know if it sparked it as much as it was. It just became tragedies in life don't just happen, right? Like, you don't become successful overnight. I think that's bullshit, right? It's like, if you look back, if you actually journal your life, journal what you think, and I tell young people to do this a lot. Even you guys are way younger than me. The more you think, and the more things you do, start to document it, and then you'll look back 5, 10 years from now, and you'll come into your own of whatever purpose that is, and you'll be like, wow, I really love this. If you look back 10 years, your journal kind of speaks it already. It was just waiting for the perfect time, because I believe that, who you are is who you are. It's just about, finding who you are, right? You don't become something. You're already that. It's just about waking up inside. So I look back at a lot of things that I've written throughout my years, or I've done throughout my years, and just different friends or people, family speaking to me about some stuff. And it was always the philosopher, stoic, wanting to learn or teaching people certain things and being a good person. I've always been that. So, for me, it just made sense to constantly keep doing it. That's all.
And when it comes to, and this is something that you brought up when you mentioned Kobe, reinventing yourself, especially, a lot of former players have a difficulty reinventing themselves after their careers, because it's a career where, it's a competitive career. How was that process for you of reinventing yourself? You just mentioned that you have these traits within yourself, but you need to trigger them somehow. So how was that process for you of reinventing yourself into something totally different than you were in your past career?
Yeah, a lot of guys identify themselves for one thing, right? You find this a lot in so many different people, right? The pretty girl who got all the attention, and sooner or later she gets older, right? She's not as pretty. She's a 21-year-old now. Right now she had to work on her character, something she never did. The guy who only thing he did was shoot the ball, right? He didn't work on his body to be able to play defense, or work on his handle, or different things in the sport. You'll find it in anybody and everybody, where they're not really students of life, and really understanding, how do I improve. I see a lot of NBA guys, after they retire, they become coaches. So the tricky thing about that is, yeah, you want to become a coach, but you're still in this little bubble of not knowing who you truly are, right? If you leave that whole world and then start to find out, what's inside you, you have a better chance of living a happier, more fulfilling life. Opposed to just constantly keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? Now you become just an old basketball coach, right? And I saw that. No one showed it to me. It's just something I saw repetitive, not just in NBA players, but I see it in people, where they constantly work for 30 or 40 years and they don't really work on themselves, right? They always say you can make a living, if you work for someone. You can make a fortune if you work for yourself, right? And that's like personal growth, right? So you gotta learn to work hard on yourself and you do your job. And I truly believe that. And the more you do those things, for me, it was just something in me. I don't know. I didn't even know how it, came about. It was just in me to like, it's more to life than just basketball, right? It's other things that I want to study, other things, other people that I want to talk to, other places that I want to go. It's so much more out there. So that's basically what how it happened for me.
And I just have one quick follow-up on that. Were there any people, it can be outside of sports or whoever, that kind of served as a role model for you in reinventing yourself and pursuing something different in your life than basketball?
Somebody asked me this last week on a podcast, and I was kind of explaining to them, there's a role model or a mentor in everyone. It could be a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a person older than you, right? It could be a homeless person on the corner, right, telling you what not to do, right? It could be the gratitude of, you have a family and someone that's gotten a divorce that actually they went through something painful, but they don't want to see you get a divorce. It's so many different things that go on in life that you have to really pay attention, man, right? It's like driving on a road, right? You're going to drive with your eyes closed. You're going to drive, as a defensive driver with your eyes open. It's kind of like that concept of really taking everything. It could be the person behind the counter at Starbucks that says something to you, and you have to really think about it, right? It means something, and it may not mean something that day, but it means something 2 weeks from now. So, the brain is very special in a way where it's kind of like the computer hard drive.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can put just new software in it constantly, you come to iPhone 14 to the iPhone 16, then you'll just keep updating, right? You'll never become the old phone. A lot of people keep the same software that is expired and thinking it still can work. You maybe get phone calls, but a lot of things that you've adopted, the apps, don't work anymore. You got to update them. That's kind of like my philosophy in life.
That's deep. And I think a lot of it has to do, maybe not for everyone, but I guess the big trigger here is when you get kids, when you become a parent, it kind of changes you because you start maybe viewing the world a bit differently, especially when your kids start to grow. You look at some of their traits that you obviously share with them because of genetics. You see some good stuff, some bad stuff, some stuff you want to correct. So paying attention and being awake every day. Now that I mentioned kids, I watched some of your podcasts recently, and you always mention, or you often mention, that you are a dad first. I know you had a podcast, or you still have a podcast, that point of view, but maybe we can talk about it later. But what does being a dad first mean for you? And can you just share some tips for soon-to-be fathers? Will here is going to become a father in a couple of weeks, so
yeah, it's getting very tense right now.
Yeah. No, listen, it's a journey. You're not just responsible for yourself anymore. You're responsible for another. And there's a few tips that I can give you, man. The ego is a trickster, right? It's only as consistent of what you consciously think of. So you have to start training your brain, Will, to how will my child see me? Right? See me as weak, see me as tired, see me as grumpy, or they see me as uplifting, see me with a lot of hugs every single day, talking, being patient, right? And then improving my own self, right? You have to You can tell your child as much as you want, but if you're not doing it, sooner or later the child's looking at you like a fraud. So the child is your teacher. Teaches you what not to do, teaches you what to do. They always say when you have a boy first, it teaches you how to be a man fast. And when you have a girl first, it teaches you what love really means. So you have to say to yourself, what were you lacking? Right? Because the universe is going to show it. Right? And then now it's up to you to really be that student of life and embrace the flaws that you do have and don't run from them. Right? A lot of parents, a lot of people run from these things and they try to live vicariously through the child and make the child do these things, and you're not doing it yourself. Right? I'm not going to yell at my son or my daughter about reading books if I'm not reading books. And when I'm reading books, why am I yelling at them? They're going to watch what I'm doing. Right? They're either going to run from it or they're going to sit down, they're going to read themselves, right? I'm not going to yell at them about working out because I'm going to go work out, right? And I'm going to maybe start by walking with them and talking to them. If it's 10 minutes or it's 20 minutes, sooner or later, a year or two from now, it turns into an hour or two when we're working out together, right? It's all baby steps, man, right? Just like Rome wasn't built in a day, the same thing when it comes to the soul and the body.
You have to basically lead you have to lead, you have to show an example, because leading by example is much stronger than words. Just saying something when you actually don't put any effort into it.
What's up with the podcast? Because I did a lot of searching on the internet. I saw your Instagram and Twitter page, but I wasn't able to find it on Spotify or YouTube. Is it still an ongoing thing? Because I mean, you're an inspiring individual, and I can definitely see why you're a motivational speaker. You have it in you. So I mean, it'd be great to watch one of these episodes online, but
yes.
I just wasn't able to find them.
Yeah. So I didn't bring them out yet. I have 15 episodes so far. We're gonna start back filming mid-March, and I have a nice lineup of people, fathers and mothers who support fathers and men. I stopped it about a year and a half ago because of the partners that I had. We're going through some stuff. One guy was getting a divorce. The other guy just wasn't as kosher as he should have been. So we parted ways. So I owned the whole thing. So I just chilled out for a second and kind of just reflected on, helped them through their stuff actually. And then I found the right partners to now give it a go. And it's much needed. A lot of people are actually asking me to hurry up and bring them out so they can get some advice or, just hear other fathers and the situations that go on in their own lives.
Yeah, I'll definitely be tuning in. I saw some big names like Dwight Howard, Matt Barnes, and a couple of other guys. So it's going to be great.
And are you, going back to the work that you're currently doing, are you working with any NBA players specifically? Because there's now a lot of, like in the last few years, there's a lot of, discussion and conversations about mental health, and a lot of players have come out very publicly speaking about their mental health and what it means to actually be an NBA player, and what are the obstacles that they have that fans and people from the outside don't even see, because they only see the glamorous life of being an NBA player. They see the money, they see the fame, they see the influence, but players are humans first. So just your thought on the mental health stigma that has been in the league or around the league when you were playing, where now it's a more common thing to talk about and discuss openly.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I work with some guys. It's confidential, but I think not just those guys, but a lot of people in general. They see, when you grow up, Will and Harry, you as soon as you come out, there's, hopefully you're blessed, as mom and dad. Mom and dad know only but so much. Okay,
yeah.
You come from a certain environment. We don't come from the same city, right? I was raised differently, right? I was raised with 4 parents, a lot of love. I'm even different from a lot of guys in my city, right? Kobe had 2 parents, I had 4. But in saying that, you become a mimic, right? We're very tribal as a society. So we copy, right? And then copying, guys, what you have to understand is that may not be the test that you should be taking when you're copying, right? The answers are different. The movie that you're playing in may not be the movie you picked to watch or be in, but you're in it, right? So now what do I do in that movie, right? Do I make a prequel or sequel that it just involves me, right? Where I'm the main character, and if I'm the main character, am I the director? I'm the producer, right? We have to really understand those things. So a lot of people live a life of someone else's vision, right? And you get depressed because you want to be the Batman, but you're playing the Joker, right? That's where the depression comes in. That depression comes when you're playing a character that you don't want to be. You're sick of being, right? So anybody who uses you, if I come up, I look like Yoda. I look like a Jedi right now. Okay. The only thing that's fancy is maybe it's my watch. Okay, right now, right? But if I don't have the watch on, and I'm just this guy, and I got this, and I'm looking like this, and I'm just right, I look whatever, unassuming. Maybe because I'm 6'4", 6'5", I mean whatever. But my point I'm trying to make is, people can only attract to you. One is how you feel inside, and two is how you look to them on the outside. Okay, so I don't do drugs, so you can't entice me to do drugs. But if I'm around people who do drugs, obviously I want something from them. So no one can take anything from you. So through the course of your life, when you're going through life, trying to figure yourself out, you're meeting individuals that maybe don't want to be or shouldn't be in your movie. So then because you've copied it for so long, you lose the identity of self, right? And then you become depressed because guess what? You got to keep that movie up. The movie's in the syndicate. It needs 100 episodes. Well, actually, it really doesn't. You can stop if you want. But because you don't want to hurt everyone else, you hurt yourself. And you become depressed yourself. You want to stop. I don't want to act no more. I want to do this now. And a lot of people don't understand that. Right? A lot of people can't take that because now if I stop doing this, or if I stop acting, or if I stop being the pretty girl, if I stop being the muscle guy, the jock, whatever it is, who's going to be there for me? Who am I? It takes a while to really understand, right? I teach people to be alone but not lonely. Right? You got to be to have a great friendship, you got to start with yourself. So that's a lot of people where especially in the sport of basketball and football and everything, there's a family. There's the trainer, there's the coaches, there's the teammates, there's everybody. It's stimulation. It's like a damn baby at the park with a whole bunch of people and colors and shit. Right? The baby's like this. By the time we get home, what's it do? Crash out. I'm tired now. It's too much to process. It's the same thing when you happen as a young guy, right? Or young girl, right? So now you got to take a step back and get in that dark room and really understand who you are. So when you do go out there, it's not as stimulating to you. You understand who you are. And it's okay to, pick from here, pick from there. But, a lot of people don't really understand that philosophy, so they get lost. And it's not that they don't like living. They just don't like living that life.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the NBA has done improvements in terms of just surrounding guys with the right help that they need when going through these mental health issues, or are still players being kind of sidelined and maybe disregarded, or is it still kind of a taboo subject for them to admit on their squad?
I don't. It's really hard, guys, to the same thing I was telling you. If you practice something for 20 years, right? If I'm paying you guys, I'm paying Will and Harry $5 million a year for the next 15 years. Whether you mess up or not, rarely will few people, if you're winning all the time, are you going to fix the game, or are you going to keep winning? You're going to keep winning in the triangle system, correct? I mean, that's how people are. So it's when you're 30-some years old or you're 40 years old and you don't really know who you are, but then now you're not playing in the NBA, you've practiced a habit that's hard to get out of. So it's not so much about the NBA helping you. It's about you helping you and understanding, like, holy shit, like, I got to get this on me, right? Before you couldn't get tattoos off of you. Now you can. So it doesn't matter if the NBA has a program. If I practice something for 20 years, it's going to take a while to get that type of behavior out of the individual. And it happens in threes, right? It's the wife, girlfriend, it's the kids, it's the career, it's the identity. It comes at you, punching you in your face as soon as you start retiring, right? So which one do you attack first? You. But your ego's involved. The ego's the one who got you to the NBA, right?
Yeah.
So, it's another thing I say too is, do you want to live in a home or do you want to live in a hotel your whole life? Right? You want to live in a home, correct?
Yeah.
We're going to create one inside your head. A lot of people create hotels.
Yeah.
Right? They run. They pack and they leave. Some hotels are shitty. Some are hostels. Some are nice, 5 stars. And then guess what? When you can't afford that, but you got to live somewhere, you're living in a hostel. You're living in this. You're sharing that. Create the best home you can inside first. Doesn't matter where you are. Live with inside yourself.
That's a very good point. And also a follow-up question on that is on the topic that you just mentioned. What do you think is the biggest downside of being an NBA player that a lot of people from the outside don't see? Obviously, it depends from one person to the other and what type of mindset they have. But you've been in the NBA for such a long time, and you've seen so many players deal with different issues. And what do you think is something that's maybe common for a lot of players that the outsiders don't see?
It's a tricky one. Unconditional love.
Mm-hmm. In what sense?
First of all, it's not even about being an NBA player. It's just a man in general. We rarely have unconditional love. Unconditional love. It's lacked in our, not only in our gender, but just in our profession, right? It's not no one's fault. Money rules. Money has a price. Doesn't matter what it is, right? You can hold off for as long as possible. Before you know it, I can pay for you to be around me, right? So it's my fault for paying for you to be around me, and then I'm mad at you later on that you used me. It's the weirdest thing. And then you come to this realization of you only love me because I'm who I am. I have this money, right? Same thing with women, right? You only love me because I have this body and you want to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, we can all make some complaint about whatever it is. But I think for NBA players, it's a really hard thing to really find a genuine love from the individual. And you can't find that until you rock bottom. Because if you never go rock bottom, you would never know.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a bit different if you have a high school sweetheart coming into the NBA who was with you before all the glory. Maybe that's a bit different. And now I think of LeBron and why maybe he's been so successful, just because of the support he's had. But when you're in that type of situation, it's a bit different than all those other other situations NBA players often talk about. But yeah, I really appreciate your thoughts on all of these topics and issues. We are a basketball website, and of course we have a lot of NBA questions or basketball questions. So I just like to start with or go into that direction a little bit more. So starting in 1998, you had a really good March Madness with Rhode Island, leading the team to an Elite Eight. Um, I actually watched the last minute between you and Stanford. It was a close game. You guys nearly actually you should have won that game. That was unbelievable. But after such a great college career, you were drafted in the second round by the Houston Rockets. Did you have a chip on your shoulder just because of where you were, selected? Let's say that far behind. And did you expect coming into Houston, that you would be starting in such an elite team when you think about the players who played there? With Scottie Pippen, Hakeem, and Charles Barkley. Okay, they were on the latter end of their career, but still elite players.
Yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder. I always had a chip on my shoulder. It wasn't personal. It's just competition. Right. I come from the city of Philadelphia. Everyone was it's Rasheed Wallace, it's Kobe Bryant, it's Eddie Jones, Jeremy Key, it's Alvin Williams, it's Rick Brunson. There's so many pros. But we weren't pros at the time, right? We were college or high school guys. So you learn how to compete at the highest level no matter what. So I'm glad I got that in me. And I think whatever's in you is in you. Doesn't matter where you're from. It just so happened that I come from Philadelphia, right? And I always believed, right? I always believed that whatever I did, I'm like one of the best at it.
I assumed, because you had great stats, and coming in you started all the games, and you averaged around 10 points as a rookie on that team, so that was great to see. And being a rookie and playing alongside these legends, do you remember any specific moment where, I don't know, Barkley, Hakeem, or maybe Pippen gave you some advice or challenged you, or maybe even pulled a prank on you or something like
that? Yeah, so it's funny because a guy sent me a video of I didn't play the very first game of my career against the Lakers. Second game was against Golden State Warriors in Golden State, and I had a top of the key 3-pointer. I won the game. So that was my introduction to the NBA. Charles Barkley passed it to me, and reporters asked him, he's like, "Did you know you were going to pass it to the rookie?" And he's like, "If I knew it was that dummy, I would have kept the ball." Right. So that was just his way of saying good job, because it's funny when he said it in the video, but then when I looked at the film, he was the first one that ran over to me and hugged me. So it was pretty cool. I learned a lot from Scottie, just preparation, right, and taking the game seriously, right. And Dream was more of a life prep, right, because he's Muslim. He studied a lot. He kept himself clean, well, mentally, physically. So I learned from every single person. I learned from Charles what not to do. So I had the best of all worlds.
Yeah, because with these three players, you had definitely different leadership styles. Charles always seems like he's a bit more loose, relaxed, ready to crack a joke, while Scottie was a true professional, like you said, and Hakeem was very, especially towards the end of later stage of his career, he was very deep in religion. He was very professional as well. Different personalities, from what I understand, and I think you also mentioned it, very different leadership styles.
Yeah, all three of them were totally different, man. It was beautiful for me, right? Because it kind of led me into the path that I am now. Dream and I actually, Akeem Awan and us, we actually trade books. So he'll send me books, I send him books. Scottie doesn't live too far from me. I haven't spoken to Charles, but when I did, it was all love. But I love those guys. Those guys helped me become who I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, coming into that kind of team and having those veterans around you. So that was a nice hand of card. That was a nice hand of cards for you coming in, definitely. There was when Pippen actually came to Houston, I remember Charles took a pay cut for him to come in, and there was some tension between the two, especially when it, I guess, started not to work as they imagined. Were there any memorable exchanges between them, and how did they handle their differences between closed doors? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it looked like a super team, but was it a super team? And what was like the vibe of the team?
You talking about with Scotty and Charles?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think about it. Charles was on, the decline.
Mm-hmm.
Dream was on the decline. They were older, right? They weren't as experienced as they were. They weren't running, and moving around on the floor defensively, even offensively, like Rasheed Wallace's and the Kevin Garnett's and the Tim Duncans of the world. These guys were like, Clydesdales. They were unbelievable at that time, right? So no knock on Dream and Charles about that, right? They're just getting older. And Scotty was, he was getting older himself, right? So he thought that, coming to the Rockets, it would be easier because you have Charles and Dream, but Dream and Charles were older now. So Scotty, bumped heads with Charles in a way where it wasn't crazy, but just that you come from a work ethic of Michael Jordan and yourself and Tim Grover, and then you come over to Charles, and Charles didn't work on his body, so that bothered Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was, other than that, it wasn't. We all hung together. It was fine.
Being a rookie, even though a lot of you come with, especially since you're from Philly. I actually lived in Philly for 9 months. It was a beautiful experience. That's where I met my wife. Being from Philly, I know people are very hard-nosed, hardworking, and there's this, like you mentioned, the ego kicks in. But and when you reach the NBA, obviously your ego is through the roof. But you come to the pros, and every rookie has a moment when maybe he realized, okay, I'm a rookie, and there's a player or a welcome to the NBA moment that kind of maybe humbles you a bit. Did you have that moment with any other player, or was there any situation where you realized, okay, I'm in the pros, even though I'm a great player, I need to step up my game and adapt to this new environment that I'm in?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that was every night my rookie year. I mean, those guys, I don't care how good you are, those guys are on a different level. So, it's Terrell Brandon. Now, people don't know who Terrell Brandon is. Terrell Brandon is a point guard. He played for Minnesota Timberwolves with Kevin Garnett. And I remember taking him for granted. He gave me about 20-something points on pick and rolls, and I couldn't even get to it. I mean, he was phenomenal. He's one of the best points that people don't know about. Just the way he, ran the team. It was for me. I went in the locker room crying because I just couldn't stop him. We won the game, but the point was that he just had such an amazing game, and it was super easy for him. So that was kind of like my. I mean, on top of Gary and Scott, it's Gary Payton and John Stockton, all the names Terrell Brandon's one of those guys. It was like, wow, this is crazy.
Did you ever get him back? Did you ever get your maybe revenge on him?
Oh, I got my revenge on everybody.
And it's funny because you mentioned him, and he is considered very underrated. A lot of casual fans don't know about him, but a lot of former players used to mention his name and saying like he was one tough cookie.
Oh, he was amazing. He was amazing.
You mentioned you and Hakeem exchange books, but something that Hakeem was really special with was his footwork and his dream shake, and he was just an unbelievable player in the post. Do you remember the first time he hit you with that move in practice, or I don't know, where do you put Hakeem on the all-time center list? You mentioned he was declining when you got there, but watching those games where he dominated Shaquille O'Neal, in the finals, told you everything you need to know about Hakeem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love Dream. I think he's top 3 best centers of all time. He was just amazing. to me just watching him. Even before I played with him, I knew how amazing Dream was. But I put Shaq first, and then I put Dream second. Just simple because Shaq's just so dominant, right? And I think the Dream that dominated Shaq was an experienced Shaq, opposed to you get him a few years later. Now that Shaq is uncontrollable.
Yeah. Prime Shaq was a different animal.
Yeah, that 2000 Shaq is another level.
Yeah,
You don't want that smoke. That 98, 99, 2000 Shaq, nobody wants that smoke. I don't care what kind of center you are.
Yeah, the most dominant guy in the world during that time. What about Yao? You played with Yao, and him and Shaq had a couple of exchanges during their time. Especially, I remember that game when it was their first game, and then Yao blocked him like 5 times in a row, and Shaq got totally pissed, and it was a great game. But did Yao have like a huge culture shock when he arrived? Because I also remember him not wanting to dunk, and then it took him some time to develop this aggressiveness. But how would you compare Yao on this all-time list with Hakeem and Shaq?
No, Yao was amazing. People don't know Yao was a great passer. They didn't utilize him enough in this passing as much as possible. And then Yao didn't want to embarrass his opponent. He just wanted to win. And, it took a lot, coming from the Asian culture to the American culture, and then being able to dominate, and that was okay to do. But super skilled, right? Just huge. He was the only person I saw that made Shaq look small. No one's better than Shaq. I can't see it. I can't see it.
And when the big three of Pippen, Barkley, and Hakeem kind of left the team, you and Steve Francis formed a really remarkable dynamic duo in the backcourt, and in my opinion, it's definitely one of the most underrated backcourt duos from the early 2000s. What was your chemistry like? How did you guys build chemistry together, both on and off the court? Like, how did you guys click? Because you cannot teach chemistry within players; it has to kind of develop by itself to a certain degree.
Yeah. So it was easy for me, right? Steve was the number 1 pick, and I was just a rising star. And I just cleaned up all the mess. Whenever he wasn't doing what he was doing, I would, do my thing. We were brothers off the court also. His mom passed away at a young age. And his grandma was raising him, and she was a little older, but then my mom was there for him. My mom would cook for us. Both families would hang together. We would hang together off the court all the time. I was like big bro. So it wasn't hard to play with a person like that because we were looking for each other on the court. And I think if we'd have won one, we would be up in the rankings of some of the top backcourts, but we didn't get a chance to win. So of course, like anything, you did get disregarded because there's other guys that actually won.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's difficult in the NBA to kind of keep the momentum going, and everybody has to chip in. The front office has to see the potential and build on top of what you got, and sometimes that doesn't happen, unfortunately.
You and Steve were then, traded in this blockbuster trade with Orlando for Tracy McGrady, and what was going through your mind during that time? Was everything done behind closed doors, or was it like similar to what the Doncic and Davis trade looked like recently?
Yes. It was, you're not getting traded. We're the one who picks the jerseys, the Houston Rockets jerseys that they're wearing right now. We helped design those.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that the gymnasium, the Toyota Center, and all that, we cut the ribbon. We're like the future, and before you know it, boom, we're out of there after 1 year.
That's crazy.
It was surprising to us, but it's what it is.
But when you went to the Magic, for me, that was one of the most underrated squads from that time, because it was a very, like, there was a good balance between young players. You had Dwight Howard coming up, and a few other players, and you had yourself, you had Steve Francis, and it seems that was also a team that I wish the front office gave some more time to develop and build chemistry, because you were on a row for the, for the first part of the season. Like, you were really a dominant team. Like, it seemed like this could be a team that could compete for a championship in a matter of 1 or 2 years.
Yep. I believe that our team, that was actually the best team I was on of all the teams.
Really?
You had Steve at the 1, me at the 2, Grant Hill at the 3, Dwight Howard at the 4, and Calvin Cato at the 5. And then you had off the bench, you had Jameer Nelson, Deshaun Stevenson, Keith Bogans, Hedo Turkoglu, and Tony Batiste. So you had great role players. Then you had guys that were stars. You had superstars. So you had a mix of everything. And then everybody complimented Dwight, right? We ran the floor. We were all athletic. We can shoot the ball, right? We can all pass. So it was just a situation where the coach at the time, thought he knew more than what he knew. And, I had to get out of there. So I got out of there, and it's so funny because we were top in the East. And when I got out of there, by the end of the year, they didn't even make the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was looking, and in the first part of the season, like, you guys were really, just piling up wins, and it looked like, everything was clicking on all fronts. But then, bad decision making from the front office just didn't pay off at the end.
Having played alongside the young Dwight, did he seem like, when he entered, that he had the potential of becoming such a dominant force in the coming years? Was it so evident?
No, he was always like that. And even as a youngster, he was always playful, super strong since he was young. Always wanted to know everything too, right? He liked to work out with the guards, was his guard skills. So he always wanted to do that. He actually wanted to be a guard, not a big.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we could have played with him longer. I think we would have won it with Steve, myself, and Grant with the White, and then having Hedo with us and the rest of those guys. But it's one of those what ifs.
And talking about what ifs, you played with Grant Hill, who was, at one point of his career, people were saying that he's the next Jordan, and unfortunately, a lot of injuries happened to him that you cannot control those things. But what do you think Grant Hill would have achieved in his career if he wasn't struck by that many injuries, especially during his days with the Magic?
Yeah, Grant is one of my favorite people in the world, actually. Super solid person, amazing teammate. And he actually was like the catalyst, the anchor for all of us at that time, myself and him, just getting everybody together, being able to do the right things to make us become better as a team. But I he was one of the best in the world at that time, before his ankle injury. So for Grant, it was just a bad case of bad luck for him, because no one can stop him. Grant's getting 26, 7, and 7 on a regular. He's giving Mike and Scotty at the time, 2 best wing defenders, 50, 40s, things like that. So but he always stayed upbeat, always stayed professional. Like I said, he was my guy. He still is my guy, but he was the guy that you learn from how to be a professional.
The Detroit Pistons, Grant Hill is on a different level, but he was also making a return. He had a really solid year before getting injured, and then he just never was able to return. I think he had like 5 injuries. So you never know when that's going to happen, but it's really tough watching such a guy being derailed from his from his potential.
Yeah, it was tough. I think he got, I don't know, 3 or 4 surgeries on the same foot. It was just craziest thing.
Yeah. Coutinho, you played for several really good coaches, from Rudy Tomjanovic, Jeff Van Gundy, Rick Edelman. Who would you? Maybe it's not fair, but would you, put somebody out, or does somebody stand out? Who was your favorite coach, or do you have a specific story that shows why they stand out?
Well, I'm not going to say who was the best coach because all of them were different, right? But I think defensively, it was Jeff Van Gundy, who I felt most comfortable with. And I think offensively was Rick Adelman. I use that system to this day with my kids. It's like dummy proof. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the best offense to run, especially if you have the personnel, even if you could teach the personnel. So I love that offense, and I live by it. So Rick Adelman's offense and Jeff Van Gundy's defense.
Moving on to the Clippers, you guys had a really solid run in 2006 when you guys reached the semifinals in the West. And I mean, there wasn't any superstar on the team. Okay, Elton Brand was an all-star, but I'm saying like no really like big superstars. And you guys still had a lot of success. You nearly beat the Suns. Do you have a favorite memory from that run, or generally from the Clippers, whether it was in the locker room, on the court, off the court, back in LA?
Yeah, so, what was amazing for me is that they didn't make the playoffs in 14 years. And then coming here myself with Sam Cassell and people not thinking that we were going to make it didn't bother us. And then when we made it, the way the city felt, the way Clippers fans felt, the way I, watching Billy Crystal's face, Kadeem Hardison, Laverne from Laverne and Shirley, just watching real fans really see that, wow, we're playing, in the playoffs. That to me felt really good to help them get that feeling. And then help Bryant and Corey Maggette, who was, wasn't in the playoffs. So now you're in the playoffs and people can really see your skills and your talent. Because both guys averaged 20 points up to that time, or at least almost 20. So it was just a great thing to see them reap the benefits of hard work throughout the years.
And what do you think that team was missing to, make the next step in terms of maybe contending for a championship?
Well, I mean, I think because they were so young at one point in time, it's kind of early on our podcast we were talking, or this interview we were talking, some people keep doing the same thing, looking for different results. So what I found that is what Corey and Elton and all those guys that were on the team prior, they were looking for a way to lose, not a way to win.
Wow.
So when Stam and I got there, the times where they got nervous and they start playing me ball instead of we ball, we kind of pulled them in and let them know that, like, listen, we're all stars here. Sometimes it's going to be you, this minute it's going to be you, this minute it's going to be you. And then we gelled together that fast. So I think it's they got out of their own way, and they found as though, okay, Sam came from success, Cuttino came from success. They don't mean any harm. And then now everybody sees how good we are together.
Mm-hmm. And, you are, I can sense that you're a true hooper. After your career, you played in the Drew League and other Pro-Am competitions, which is a totally different type of competition from the NBA game. The vibe is different. How would you compare these different, how would you compare like Drew League and other Pro-Am competitions to NBA? And do you have any memory from playing in those type of games, and what makes it maybe even better than the NBA game?
No, it's not better than the NBA game, dog. Come on, stop it.
I'm just asking. Maybe there's something.
Yeah, stop it. Don't even put that in the universe.
It's warming up for the season,
Exactly, and it's like a baby warm up. Season is totally different. Guys are playing real defense in the season. you may play a little bit in the pickup in Drew League. And Drew League is competitive, don't get me wrong. But a season is strategy. Season is top of the top. Season is for real, right? But the Drew League is actually, from what I've known during my time, was one of the top leagues, pro league, summer leagues out there. So it was always fun to, kind of iron sharpens iron, wet your whistles a little bit, get your rhythm ready for the season that starts. But the NBA is just different.
But even post your career, I watched the video of you playing at the Drew League and with Kobe Bryant in the first seat, applauding you and your moves.
Yeah.
That was super cool to see. But when talking about the Drew League, I think there might the main difference is you're not getting paid for it, but still you're playing with some type of passion. Some stars are there, and it's just like pure basketball. So that's the main difference probably.
Yeah. So you right then and there, that's when you can put the ego in front of the purpose, right? The ego has to live right there. The purpose is, of course, to win the game, but the ego has to compete, right, on the show. Like that's when the ego should be in front of everything else.
Cuttino, you played against some of the greatest shooting guards of all time with, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Ray Allen. Any memories of guarding these guys, maybe a moment where you got the best of them, like a trash talking moment or anything of that sort, or they got the best of you or that sort of thing?
AI had 58 one game on me. We were in Philly. His first 7 shots he missed, so I thought I was playing good defense. I wind up with 32 that game, so it wasn't like I had a bad game myself. Cole got me 40-something. I had 30-something. So it's, we do each other like that, right? So, I can say during that time I was one of the top 2 guards, and you couldn't just, have an easy night with me. So all my guys knew that. So it was always fun to go up against, Ray and Allen and Kobe and all the other guys. So, it was just fun to compete, man. But we never talked trash to each other. That's just the respect was there. Of just your trash talking was competing hard. That's it.
When you watch the NBA today, what is the main difference that you see compared to when you played? And do you think it will be easier for you to play in today's NBA than when you were actually having your career?
For a fact.
Yeah.
For a fact, it's a lot easier, man. But again, it could be easier because I'm older and I'm smarter, right? And I'm more efficient, right, mentally. Right, when you're younger, there's so many things to do. It's like a baby with a lot of toys. Which one do you play with, right? You start getting older, you can't play with those toys no more. So you just got to pick exactly which ones you want to have in the house, let alone play with. So for me, it was more of I watch how they play defense now, and I see how open the court is, and I'm like, wow, I can run the floor, I can shoot threes, I can do this, I can do that. I was one of the top 3-point shooters in the league at my time. So imagine now I'll be shooting 10, 12 threes a game and going to the basket because I was top in the league 4-quarter points. So I'm going to the basket, right? I'm going to the basket 8 times a game. So I would have had a field day. I mean, it's just who's blocking my shots. It was more shot blockers when I played than it is now. It was more guys than it is now into the basket. So for me, it'd be easier because it's just skills.
So you're saying 25 to 30 points a night, easy work.
Oh, easy.
Connected to this, does anybody's game from today resemble your game, who do you think is kind of the most similar in terms of skills and just the way you played, but today?
OKC, Jalen Williams. He does everything, and he complements Shea really well.
Absolutely,
I like him a lot.
He's a great two-way player, and he's very
Yes.
young, so there's a lot of upside to his game. Like he can develop, he can polish up
Yeah,
his
he does
game in the next
everything.
few years. Yeah, he reminds me of a
Does
young
everything.
Kawhi Leonard a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi's a little different, but he's just more fluid. He has more fluidity to him. You know, to the basket, left, right. You know, it's more. You know, it's just more fluid. You know,
Yeah,
but that's the one that reminds me of me more because he does a lot mid-range stuff, threes, dribble ball, assists, play D. You know, compliment the best guy and still have star quality. I like him a lot.
Awesome. Cuttino, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been great talking to you. Please let us know when you start, publishing and putting out the podcasts. That point of view, I'd love to tune in. It was great talking to you, and wish you all the best. Let's stay in touch.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
take care and good luck. Let's speak soon.